Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is our Prophets of Awakening. It's our evening Shabbat class, 26th of April, 2025. We're going to pick up where we left off this morning, reading out of the book of Joshua. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, Prophets of Awakening, check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos you can examine and look at. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. Okay. For those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books that was given to Moses by our Redeemer and our Savior, the Lord of Hosts. Okay. This channel is to aid and assist any Hebrew Israelite that are waking up to their true identity. This channel is here to help them, guide them along, and lead them to the truth of the situation. Okay, shalom and welcome to this channel, and welcome to our evening Shabbat class. We're gonna do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, psalms. We have some current events, need to know information. We'll open it up for any questions or comments and dialogue. And then we go into our topic, which is we're picking up where we left off this morning in the book of Joshua. Okay, we're going to read and break down the scriptures. And we'll pick out a scripture. Someone will pick a scripture out and we'll read that, and then we'll break it down. And then we'll close out. Be right around an hour or so that we'll be on live. Okay. This moment of silence is for the Lord of Hosts and all that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. O Lord, righteousness and uprightness belongeth unto Thee. Therefore, we come before Thee at this hour, seeking Thy face, looking for righteousness and uprightness, that we may walk before Thee as Thy servants David and Solomon, Samuel, and Hezekiah did. For we desire to walk after Thee, O Lord, and to keep Your commandments and Your testimony with all our testimony and Your statutes with all our heart and soul, to perform the words of the covenant that was written down by Your prophets. O Lord, allow Thy face to shine upon Thy people. Hear our plea, hear and do, O Lord, and hide not Thy face from us any longer, for we need You so very much at this hour. Peace be unto You. Okay, we're going to read a psalm. Okay. I read 51. It's a prayer for cleansing. Okay. So the chief musician, the Psalm of David, was when Nathan the prophet came unto him after he had gone in unto Bathsheba. So he says, have mercy upon me, O God, according to Thy loving kindness, according unto the multitude of Thy tender mercies. Blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sins. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Against Thee, and Thee only, have I sinned, and done this evil in Thy sight, that Thou mayest be justified when Thou speakest, and be clear when Thou judgest. Behold, I am sharpened in iniquity, I am shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Behold, Thou desirest truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden parts thou shalt make me to know wisdom. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which Thou hast broken may rejoice. Hide Thy face from my sins, and blot out all my iniquities. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from Thy presence, and take not Thy Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of Thy salvation, and uphold me with Thy free spirit. Then will I teach transgressors Thy ways, and sinners shall be converted unto Thee. Deliver me from blood guiltiness, O God, thou God of my salvation, and my tongue shall sing aloud of thy righteousness. O Lord, open thou my lips, and my mouth shall show forth thy praise. For thou desire not sacrifice, else would I give it. Thou delighteth not in burnt offerings. The sacrifice of God, or the broken spirit, the broken and contrite spirit of God, thou wilt not despise. Do good in thy good pleasure unto Zion. Build thou the walls of Jerusalem. Then shalt thou be pleased with the sacrifices of righteousness, with the burnt offerings, and the whole burnt offerings. Then shall thou offer bullocks upon thy altar. So right here, read this verse, this Psalm 51. If you go to Ezekiel right quick, you make a statement over there, but David is telling us just how this process. So we go to Ezekiel 37, right? Dry bones. You'll see that he promised our forefathers that in verses starting at 22 says, I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king over them all, and they shall be no more two nations. Neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. 23, neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and cleanse them. So that's the point I'm talking about right here. So he proclaimed right here in Ezekiel 37, he's going to resurrect the whole house of Israel, bring us back to our land. But before we go into the land, he says, and I will cleanse them. This is Ezekiel 37, 23. Wherein they have sinned, and I will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. Right? And then 24, and David my servant shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my statutes and my judgments, and observe my statutes and do them. So you would ask the question, how are you going to cleanse us? After 25, 100 years or so, we've been out of the land. We ain't been making no sacrifices, and 90-some% of the people don't even know who he is. So David gave us a blueprint right here in Psalm 51, because he sinned, right? It says in verse 1, I'll read these first couple of verses again. He says, David has sinned with Bathsheba. So he says, have mercy upon me, O God, according to thy loving kindness and according to thy multitude of thy tender mercies. Blot out my transgression. So he's saying, blot out my sin. This killed JC, right? He says, blot out my transgression. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquities and cleanse me. Right here. Cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Thee, and thee only have I sinned, and done this evil in thy sight, that thou mayest be justified when thou speakest, and be clear when thou judgest. So right here, we was talking about this the other day, why so many people being in the land of Canaan and Joshua and Moses and them killing all these people. And it's kind of not understood. They're saying that this is a wicked God, but he's telling us right here, David says, for against thee, and thee only have I sinned, against the Lord of hosts, and done this evil in thy sight. Then he says, that thou mayest be justified. So he already been sin, he full of sin. So when David said, when you judge me, right, it's justified when thou speakest, and it's clear when thou judgest. So when you understand that, same thing right here. So when you understand who these people are, the Canaanites, and what has happened, what has transpired, you understand it's clear what he's doing. It's not wicked. He's judging righteously. Okay? And so you say, what you talk about? I'll give you an example. Same thing David's saying right here, and what I just read in Ezekiel 37. It's right here in Zechariah. Let me read it. Okay, it says chapter 3 of Zechariah, verse 1. And he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. And the Lord, this angel, said unto Satan, the Lord rebuke thee, O Satan, even the Lord that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? Now Joshua was clothed with a filthy garment and stood before the angel, just like David. And he answered and spake unto those that stood by him, these other 6, saying, take away the filthy garment from him. And unto him he said, behold, I have caused thy iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with a change of raiment. So this is what David's talking about. You know, we understand who the Lord of hosts is and what his role is and what his capabilities are. So he's asking him to do the same thing right here he done to Joshua. Cleanse him, take away his sin. He ain't got to shed no blood or die on the cross, but he says, verse 4, he answered and spake unto them that stood before him, saying, take away the filthy garment from him. And unto him he said, behold, I have caused thy iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with a change of raiment. And I said, let them set a fair upon his head. And they set a fair upon his head, and clothed him with the garments. And the angel of the Lord stood by. So we see right here. So the same thing getting ready to happen to us. We got to get cleansed in the same way. Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay. So with that being said, we'll go to our current events. Okay.
Did you know there is a brotherhood within the church that has controlled kings, started wars, and shaped entire governments, all without almost anyone noticing? They didn't just preach the gospel, they wrote the backstage of history. The Jesuits are not only religious, they are strategists, infiltrated to this day in the largest universities, governments, and even the Vatican, where one of them became Pope. And this may just be the beginning. In this video, you will discover the true forbidden history of the Jesuits, how an order created by a wounded soldier became the most mysterious and powerful force in the Catholic Church, controlling education, politics, science, and perhaps even the fate of the world. Stay until the end, because what you will hear here, no one else will tell you. It was supposed to be just another battle in the name of honor and the Spanish crown. But for Inigo de Loyola, it was the exact moment when the heavens broke their silence and the history of the church began to change. Pamplona, 1521. A French cannon rips through the battlefield and shatters the leg of a proud soldier. But there, on the blood-stained ground, God was planting a seed, a wound that not only broke bones but opened a new spiritual path that would influence entire empires. Now, think with me, how does a man, physically defeated, confined to a bed, become the architect of one of the most powerful religious orders in history, the Society of Jesus? During his long recovery, Loyola immersed himself in spiritual readings. But here's the intriguing detail. He didn't just read lives of saints. There are records that he also studied mystical works, influenced by medieval spiritual traditions, often overlooked by official theology. Does this surprise you? If you look closely, you'll see that even before organizing the spiritual exercises, Loyola already exhibited a deep interest in disciplines of introspection and soul mastery, similar to the practices of ancient mystics. It was almost as if he were forging a doctrine that Catholic devotion with a spiritual strategy of warfare. And this makes sense. After all, he was a soldier. But now his battlefield would be the human soul. His goal? Spiritual control. Interesting, isn't it? And here something more enigmatic begins to emerge. The first manuscripts of Loyola, especially his spiritual diary, simply vanished. We're not talking about mere drafts. We're talking about texts that, according to testimonies of the time, contained visions, instructions, and symbols that caused comfort, even in the corridors of the Vatican. What was in there that needed to be silenced? Did these writings contain revelations about the secrets of the Jesuits still in formation? Were the seeds of a carefully crafted Jesuit doctrine hidden there, which brought to Jesuit schools, spread across Europe, Latin America, and the future United States? This forbidden history of the Church forces us to ask, why hide these documents? The man who once sought glory in military battles now marched towards something much more complex, the spiritual domination of the human mind. And believe me, his methods would bear fruit in the silent rooms of Jesuit missions, in the libraries of universities like Georgetown University, in the halls of political power, where the Jesuit order continues to weave influence to this day. From that decisive moment, the young Loyola, no longer a knight but a strategist of faith, began to lay the foundations of a Christian secret society whose presence would infiltrate the backstage of history. What seemed like just an isolated event in the life of a soldier became the spark of a silent spiritual revolution, a revolution that would unite religion and politics, faith and science, and pave the way for one of the greatest religious conspiracies ever told. Have you ever stopped to think about why some of the greatest spiritual movements in history began in secrecy? On August 15th, 1534, 7 men gathered on a sacred hill in Paris, Montmartre. The scene was discreet, almost silent. They were not in a temple, nor before a crowd. They were in a forgotten chapel, away from the eyes of the world, but under the watchful gaze of heaven. It was there that the Society of Jesus was born, a religious order that would forever change the course of Christian history, and one that from its origin carried the traits of a secret society. Now think about this. Why swear unconditional obedience to the Pope and not to the Church as an institution? What sense does that make? The answer is hidden in ancient documents that reveal something surprising. These men did not see the Church as a political structure or merely a hierarchical one, but believed that true spiritual power should be centralized in a single man, considered the direct representative of Christ. Does this sound familiar? This level of devotion, almost military in nature, explains much of the blind loyalty that would shape the power of the Jesuits within the Vatican, and why many suspected their intentions from the very beginning. But there is something even more unsettling. The original vow made by Ignatius of Loyola and his companions included clauses that even shocked members of the Roman Curia. Reports indicate that part of the vow contained promises of action in hostile territories, the use of disguises, and infiltration techniques to convert souls and influence governments. And now comes the question that won't be silenced. Was this just evangelical zeal or the outline of a religious espionage network? It's no wonder that from its earliest steps, the Society of Jesus was seen as more than just a religious order. Its members began to be called the eyes and ears of the Vatican. And over time, expressions like Jesuits and politics, Jesuits and the New World Order, and even Vatican conspiracy would emerge. Nobles and kings. This was unsettling, very unsettling. Can you imagine what it was like for an inquisitor to discover that a Jesuit was directly influencing political decisions within a European court, that they had access to the secrets of royalty, that they perhaps knew more than they should? This fueled growing tension. The Catholic Church, internally divided, began to see the Jesuits not just as allies, but as competitors in the game of spiritual dominion and political power. The result? Imprisonments, interrogations, and tortures. Yes, Some Jesuits were persecuted and taken to the dark chambers of the Inquisition, where their own brothers in faith treated them as traitors. And far more powerful, this apparent death only strengthened the martyr narrative, fed the myth, and prepared them for a new era of domination, a domination that would extend across universities, governments, and scientific institutions, a domination that to this day remains active, yet invisible. In 1814, as though rising from the ashes, the Society of Jesus was officially restored by Pope Pius VII. And here is the central point. It didn't just return, it returned bigger, more connected, more refined in its strategy of influence. The suppression had been like silent training, a hidden preparation for a new phase of operation, now even more globalized and sophisticated. The inevitable question arises, what exactly did the Jesuits do during this hidden period that left them so strengthened? During the period of silence, the surviving Jesuits reorganized with the support of powerful allies, including within academic structures. They understood that the world was changing and that science, knowledge, and cultural influence would be the new battlegrounds. Thus, they began to build alliances with academic secret societies, elite organizations, and intellectual training networks. The goal was clear: to reconquer spiritual and educational dominance with a new appearance, but with the same old foundations.
Okay, anybody ever heard of Jesuits? Any comments on that? 9 times out of 10, those you hear me talking about the bankers, Illuminati bankers. 9 times out of 10, they're Jesuit too. Okay, any comments?
Yeah, I want to say something. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sister.
Go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think we talked about this the other day, how the highest court of the United States, the Supreme Court, on either side of the courtroom, they have symbols that indicate that the Catholic religion holds power over the laws in this country. I remember we're talking about that.
Okay.
Shalom. I think it's interesting how this video and other videos constantly talk about the emergence of these new religions and their fight for power for themselves. But they hardly really get into where is the foundation where all of this come from. You know, they don't talk about the Most High, and I understand why they wouldn't, but we know where that foundation comes from. But it's just interesting how they talk about everything else, but the true foundation of where this stuff really comes from, like our records and the information. I think he said something in the video about how this is based on something older, but then don't really get into what is that older stuff. Why did they replace what was already there or what was known at the time? I just think that was interesting.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's how they do. They when they don't want to expose something, or they know that they're gonna stick their foot in their mouth, they go vague on it, so you don't really have to explain it if nobody really question them about it. They close at that, especially in the church. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Go to this next one.
A very strange video was just released of Caroline Leavitt with Donald Trump that has a lot of people asking questions. And also, Republicans released this attack ad on Caroline Leavitt that has videos from her Snapchat account that I cannot wait to show you. And as this is happening, there is just real craziness happening on the side of MAGA, and I am sure if you don't, as long as you don't live under a rock, I'm pretty sure you saw this video.
I do.
That Nancy Mace put out where she's attacking her own constituent.
I do them every year. You want to keep going? Come on.
where he was like, this constituent of hers was asking, are you going to do a town hall? Are you going to do a town hall? That's all I was asking. And she went on to harass him for 1 minute and 42 seconds. Now, everyone has seen this side of it, but what is crazy is that he released his side of it, and you can see Nancy Mace being insane. Let's just watch a bit of this.
Yes. When are you going to host a real town hall for the people? Did you miss the 15 I had last year? That wasn't the town. When are you going to host one this year? I've already had one, and I'll have a dozen more. The town hall you hosted this year was not a town hall. It was a town hall, and I do them every year. Every year. You want to keep going? Are you going to do any more this year? Keep going. Are you going to do it? I'm asking if you're going to have any more town halls this year.
She started filming it.
Last year. I asked if you're doing any more this year. It was one simple question. Yeah. Are you doing a town hall this year? Are you doing any more?
Talking about it. Let's just watch a little bit of that.
Laura, Nancy Mace sees people in a single layer. She sees me and she sees the people of my community one way. She feels that we owe her something because she voted yay for gay marriage. We don't owe her anything. In fact, we'd like her to answer the questions that we actually have. When are you putting out your schedule for an actual town hall? When?
I think it's so funny that it's just like, he goes on CNN and he's just like, baby, I just want a town hall. I just want a town hall. I love that he just kept, I love that he was very genuinely and wants a town hall. It's not about anything else. I love that he just went back to that original point, which is like, Nancy Mace, just put on a town hall. Just put it on a town hall. And Caroline Levitt, let's show this. All right, so someone asked, what do you notice about this video of Caroline Levitt at the Easter egg roll at the White House, the $1 million Easter egg roll, because eggs are $30 a carton now.
What do you notice in this video?
I don't want to say, but I did notice. I don't think I want to say.
What do you notice in this video?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. I'm not saying. Let's see if someone else says it. Like milkmaids throwing themselves to Adolf circa 38. Oof. I'm just let you read that. I'm gonna let you read that. All right, and then also, I didn't know this existed. I didn't know this is going viral again. This is the White House press secretary, and what you may not know is she ran for Congress in 2022. She did not win, but she ran for Congress. And this is the attack ad that was used against her, called Hobag.
I'm Caroline Levitt.
Yep, that's her. Levitt pretends she's a conservative, but really she's just a woke Gen Zer. Worships Fauci's mask mandate. Records everything.
Listen up, Hobag.
Wants to bring her generation's new vision to Congress. You know, mooching off her parents, running a huge credit card debt. Woke and irresponsible. Caroline Levitt for Congress? No, not a chance. Defending Main Street is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I gotta tell you, Republicans know how to make a goddamn ad. I had no idea that she went into financial, she had like a credit card debt. I didn't know that. And seeing Caroline Levitt, like, this is who she really is. Let's just be honest. This is who she really is.
It's everything.
Listen up, Hobag.
Wants to bring her.
I mean, I would be friends with someone like that. I don't understand what happens to these people. I don't know if I'm going to show, let's just show a little bit of this. Again, Nancy Mace she's got an attention problem. She just needs it. And here she is reading mean voicemails she's received.
Listen up. Nancy Mace is a nasty bitch. I would pay money to see Mace get fucking decked in the mouth. Nancy Mace is a literal. Nancy Mace is a.
Note to editor who's saying, we are going to have to bleep this. We have to bleep this. Okay.
Happy Easter. That's the tweet. Nancy Mace is such a useless piece of straight trash. Nancy Mace is a disgusting pig bitch.
And so what Trump is doing is he's suing CBS, and CBS is trying to get rid of the lawsuit. And it's over that 60 Minutes interview that Kamala Harris did, but Trump didn't, and he thinks because they cut the interview down for time, they helped Kamala Harris, even though I don't know. Is it possibly a sore winner? Is it possibly a sore winner? Like, you're suing someone for an interview that you didn't even partake in an election that you won. Anyways, so what happened is that the person who runs 60 Minutes is resigning because he doesn't want to become subservient to Trump, and he's doing the right thing. And we need people like this who are doing the right thing. And what's incredible is that here is how CBS Evening News reported on it. So thank you so much for watching.
Okay. So anybody know who Caroline Levitt is? Anybody know who that is? Caroline Levitt?
No, sir, I don't.
That's the White House secretary, the press secretary, the dingy blonde. She's the press secretary for the White House. Okay. Any comments on that? Okay. So I go to some need to know information. Play this.
Of course, rely on China for manufacturing and sourcing their products. U.S. imports from China last year hit nearly $440 billion. And according to the logistics platform Flexport, 95% of those goods are transported by sea.
We've seen a 60 to 65% drop in ocean freight from China to the U.S. It means if nothing gives, if nothing changes, he doesn't go forward with that, you're going to have massive shortages across the economy.
The United States imported $438 billion worth of goods from China in 2024. All of a sudden, most of that trade is being cut off. Tariffs on Chinese goods are now so high that it no longer makes economic sense for Chinese companies to export products to us. And it no longer makes economic sense for U.S. companies to import products from China. As a result, container bookings are absolutely plummeting, and retail CEOs are warning that store shelves all over America will, quote, soon be empty, unquote. Yep, retailers will attempt to find replacement items from other sources when it's possible to do so. But in many cases, things that are made in China are not made anywhere else. As retailers run through existing inventory levels, shortages will begin to emerge. I do not believe that we should have ever started trading with China at this level. And I would love to see a day in the future when we no longer trade with China. But at this moment, we are deeply, deeply dependent on China. Nobody can deny this. Our economy literally cannot function normally without Chinese imports, and now most of those imports will no longer be coming across the ocean. Most Chinese imports fall into these 10 categories. Electrical machinery and TV parts, $124.97 billion, 28% of total imports from China. Nuclear reactor parts and mechanical appliances, $82 billion, 18% of total imports from China. Toys, games, and sports equipment, $30.03 billion, 7% of imports from China. Plastics, $19.29 billion, 4% of total imports from China. Furniture, lamps, and prefabricated buildings, $18.52 billion, 4% of total imports from China. Vehicles, $16.85 billion, 4% of total imports from China. Iron and steel, $98 billion, 3% of total imports from China. Optical and photographic parts, $11.88 billion, 3% of total imports from China. Clothing, $9.99 billion, 2% of total imports from China. And shoes, $9.78 billion, 2% of total imports from China. Now, did you know that China makes 80% of our toys? 80%. Any toys later this year, you may want to stock up now. It's being reported that container shipping between China and the United States faces unprecedented disruption following the implementation of new Trump administration tariffs on U.S. imports from China, with industry leaders warning of potential widespread supply chain impacts and economic consequences that could rival the pandemic. According to Ryan Peterson, founder and CEO of Flexport, ocean container bookings from China to the United States have plummeted by over 60% in just 3 weeks since the new tariffs took effect. The dramatic decline follows the introduction of reciprocal tariffs that went into effect on April 9th, setting rates at 145% for China and 10% for all other origin points.
65%, 60 to 65% drop in ocean freight from China to the U.S. It means if nothing gives, if nothing changes, he doesn't go forward with that, you're going to have massive shortages across the economy.
You deal with countries all over the world and all across this country. And so if the tariffs aren't relaxed with China, is that a reality in your view, Ryan?
For sure, that's what's going to happen if they don't get relaxed.
I told you what I thought about this in a video that I posted yesterday. Today, I'd like to share some insights from an industry insider. Molson Hart is the founder and president of an educational toy company called Via Hart. He just posted an analysis of what we're facing that is so good that I decided to share his entire Twitter post in this video. The White House has put itself and the country in a bad situation, but doesn't realize it yet. Around April 10th, China to USA trade show. It takes about 30 days for containers to go from China to Los Angeles, 45 to Houston by sea, 45 to Chicago by train, 55 to New York by sea. That means that there will be no economic effects of what was done on April 10th until about May the 10th. Around that time, and it's already started to happen, trucking work is going to dry up. Warehouses will start doing less because no labor is needed to unload containers, and some products will be out of stock, reducing the need for shipping labor. All of this will start in the Los Angeles area. After about 2 weeks, it'll start hitting Chicago and Houston. Let's say the White House, after 3 weeks, changes its mind on May 31st. Hey, this isn't working out like we thought it would.
Earn 60,000 bonus points.
Tariffs go back to zero. Let's say China says, bygones be bygones, we'll go back to how things were. Let's say every factory in China that got screwed by their orders being canceled says the same thing. No problem, we'll make and ship. The problem is, even under the most favorable conditions of China and the factories restarting economic ties as though nothing happened, it will be at least another 30 days before economic activity is revived. And that's just in LA. In Chicago, Houston, you have to wait another 45 days. New York, at that point, will still be getting containers from before April 10th. They will then have 50 days, May 31st minus April the 10th, of zero economic activity at the ports, in trucking of Chinese goods, in warehousing. The whole situation is a bit like lockdowns. Once you shut down, it takes a long time to get economic activity back to where it was if you ever can. And again, this assumes that China and its factories, which make things that you can't buy elsewhere, will start right back up again as though nothing happened, which is Unlikely. It's almost like we're speeding towards a brick wall, but the driver of the car doesn't see it yet. By the time he does, it'll be too late to hit the brakes. Well, I could not have said it better myself. When we finally hit that brick wall, millions of people are going to be extremely angry. Many are suggesting that we should start making stuff here, and I agree with that, but the reality of the matter is that it takes a long time to construct new factories. In a subsequent post on Twitter, Molson Hart from Viahart commented on this. Lego is building a factory in the United States. They began looking for a location in 2021. They originally expected to start production in the second half of 2025. They are now forecasting 2027. So the biggest toy company in the world needed 6 years to make in America. Full-blown meltdown. We need to reach a deal with China. Unfortunately, the Chinese just publicly stated that no negotiations with the United States are currently happening, despite President Donald Trump recently suggesting the 145% tariff on its imports could be reduced substantially. Ministry of Commerce spokesman He Yagong said, any claims about the progress of China-U.S. trade negotiations are as groundless as trying to catch the wind and have no factual basis, according to the Associated Press. The unilateral tariff increase measures were initiated by the United States. If the United States really wants to solve the problem, it should face up to the rational voices of the international community and all parties at home. Completely cancel all unilateral tariff measures against China and find ways to resolve differences through equal dialogue, he continued.
Okay. Any comments on that? What do you think?
Shalom. I agree with his last comment, but that's the very thing that they're not going to do. I mean, this whole thing was set up on a racist, entitled, and privileged foundation in the beginning. I mean, they sent everything over to China to get it cheaper and to enrich themselves and to undermine other people in this country. And then now that it no longer is a benefit, now you want to villainize the very people that you are working with. At all these years, all this propaganda about China is stealing and lying, but all along you guys have been working with them to undermine everybody else and enrich a few. And it's just, I just think that with the internet and with 24-hour news in the last 30 years and stuff like that, it's exposing all that, and they can't do these secret deals, and this propaganda machine doesn't work as effectively as it's done in the past. And they've been exposed for who they are, and it's not going to work. Same thing what they're doing with the stuff in Africa. That stuff just not working anymore. This ain't 2011 or whatever when they killed Gaddafi. All that stuff is being exposed in a way that it's never been done before, and everybody sees it for what it is, and you can't be the hero and the villain at the same time.
Exactly. Anybody else?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember the Uyghurs. These are people that supposedly China has been, they've been, what's the word? They're pretty much like colonizing these people over there. And the United States has been criticizing them all the time about their behavior, yet they still continue to do business with these people, knowing that. And so now it's gotten to where, like I said, almost all the products that we have is from China. And obviously, our debt, we have a huge debt with China. And unfortunately, the people that will have to pay for that would be the citizens of the United States, because those people making the choices, those people are not going to be out there doing the work. They're going to make us into slaves to pay back that debt to China.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, so notice what he said. That is May 10th to feel the effects of what had happened, because it's a gap that transpired as far as the shipments, but they haven't reached us yet. So May 10th, saying that you're going to start seeing some serious shortages, shelves empty and all that. So we're gonna wait and see. Okay. Nobody else. Nobody else got any comments on that?
Shalom. I also think it's interesting that, like, again, with all the propaganda that now they want to bring manufacturing back to the United States, but they've been seeing this, what's been happening all along. And the guy quoted all of these just unbelievable gaps between America and China, but this is not something that's unseen. They knew that, but as long as it benefited them, they didn't care. Now all of a sudden with Project 2025 and all the things that you're saying you want to do, you didn't see this. You thought they could just come in and tell China do this or else, and then they were just going to roll over. It's an old
Exactly.
mindset that no longer exists anymore. That's not going to work.
Right, exactly. It's causing problems for the whole world, actually, the whole global economy. Okay. Anybody else have anything? We'll go to our Q&A. Anybody have any questions or comments or dialogue about anything they came across, anything they heard on the channel or videos? They want to bring it up, talk about it.
Shalom, everyone. Earlier, when you was reading out of Jasher this morning,
Okay.
and just going back, kind of reading over that and thinking about things, when he said that the young lady became pregnant right at 126 years old, I think it was.
Right.
Yes, sir. Chapter 67. She was 126 years old, and I just thought about thinking about things and how old Sarah was. Sarah was 90, right? When she became pregnant. So I was just thinking about that as we see so much proof of us serving a living God. They're not, he's not an idol. He is a living God. I think it tells us in Psalms about the idols that they have eyes, but they can't see. They have ears, but they can't hear, things like that. And I was just, thinking about that when we see all the things that he has done for our ancestors and continue to do for us.
Exactly right. Yeah, right. Yeah, and we've been programmed, like I said, from the time you're born to you get 18, even beyond that. We've been programmed a certain way to read things, and it's not the proper way to read it. We read over the things that need to be zeroed in on, and then we focus on things that really ain't hit on nothing. It's like I said, it goes back to, like I said, thinking like a Hebrew.
Yes, sir. And that name, Brother Leonard, also that you were talking about, I think it was in the last chapter that you read, chapter 69, that name Pethor. I done some research on that, and it showed up in the book of Numbers, which was related to Balaam.
Right.
That's where he was from. Yes, sir.
Right, and then it's excuse me, Assyrian. It's Assyria. So that opened up a whole nother can of worms, because Assyria, the ones that came and took the 10 tribes away. So
okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah. But there's something.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's like the story with Hezekiah, with the Hezekiah and with the Chaldeans. A lot of people don't realize what happened with that. They think that the Chaldeans just all of a sudden showed up in Jerusalem, and they came and ramshacked the temple, took all the gold and stuff from there. But Hezekiah had brought them there, and then he took them into the temple and showed them all that. He showed them all the gold that he had. He was being boastful. And then the Chaldeans went back and told their king and all that about it. And then eventually they came back. That's what Isaiah was telling them. So yeah. Hezekiah had some missteps. Okay. So with that being said, nobody else have any questions or comments about anything? I'm gonna read a couple of chapters out of Joshua. I pick up where I left off this morning. We read 67 and 68. I think it was. We'll read 69 and 70. Well, I read 69. We'll read 70 and 71. Okay. Get it. Okay, I'm in chapter 70. Okay, chapter 70 says, Joshua chapter 70, verse 1. In the third year from the birth of Moses, the Pharaoh was sitting at a banquet when Apollonius, the queen, was sitting at his right hand and Bethel at his left. And the lad Moses was lying upon his bosom, and Balaam, the son of Beor, with his two sons, I told you about that. Balaam's two sons is Janus and Jambres, two that threw down their rods when Moses threw his down. And all the princes of the kingdom were sitting at the table in the king's presence. And the lad stretched forth his hand upon the king's head, took the crown from the king's head, and placed it on his own head. And when the king and the princes saw the work which the boy had done, the king and the princes were terrified. And one man to his neighbor expressed astonishment. And the king said unto the princes who were before him at the table, what speaketh you, and what say you, O ye princes, in this matter? And what is to be the judgment against the boy on account of this act? And Balaam, the son of Beor, the musician, answered before the king and the princes, and he said, remember now, O my lord and king, the dream which thou didst dream many days since, and that which thy servant interpreted unto thee. Now, therefore, this is the child from the Hebrew children, in whom is the Spirit of God. And let not my lord the king imagine that this youngster did this thing without knowledge. For he is a Hebrew boy, and wisdom and understanding are with him. Although he is yet a child, and with wisdom has he done this, and chosen unto himself the kingdom of Egypt. So we was this morning, the question was asked, what was hail? Just another example right here, what hail is. Notice what he says. He says, let my lord, the king, imagine that this youngster did this thing without knowledge, right? For he is a Hebrew boy, right? He got hit. The Hebrews got hell. It says, and wisdom and understanding is with him, although he is yet a child. And with wisdom has he done this, and chosen unto himself the kingdom of Egypt. For this is the manner of all Hebrews, to deceive kings and their nobles, and to do all these things cunningly, in order to make the kings of the earth and their men tremble. So this is what I was talking about right here. Well, these people, they didn't understand our culture, even to the day. They don't understand that it's angels that's working on our behalf. Like I said, they were trying to kill Elijah, but the angels were coming and telling Elijah, they count with the Assyrians, and then they go back to where Elijah and tell him what they said and what they was praying against him. So Elijah knew where to go and what to do to get away from him, and they never could figure it out. They thought it was spies, turncoats among them, but it was these angels working, and that's the same thing right here. They don't understand that it's angels helping these Hebrew Israelites. He said he think it's some kind of wickedness going on. I'll read verse 8 again. Well, this is the manner of all Hebrews, to deceive. See, they don't understand that, we're dealing with angels. Deceive kings and their nobles, to do all these things cunningly, in order to make the kings of the earth and their men tremble. Surely thou knowest that Abraham, their father, acted thus, who deceived of Nimrod, king of Babel, and Amalek, king of Gerar, and that he possessed himself of the land of the children of Heth and all the kingdoms of Canaan. So I want to shine a light on something right quick. So notice he says in verse 9, surely thou knowest that Abraham, their father, acted thus, who deceived the army of king of Babel. So that's not in King James. So if you didn't have this book right here, Joshua, or you didn't have the book of Enoch or Jubilees, you wouldn't know that. Especially Joshua, because it's not in King James, but Abraham encountered Nimrod. You would think that they lived years apart. So, like I said, Abraham was put in the furnace by Nimrod, just like Daniel, Shadrach, and Meshach, and Abednego was put in the furnace by Nebuchadnezzar. So it says, and that he descended into Egypt to Sarah, his wife, she is my sister, in order to mislead Egypt and her king. And his son Isaac also did so when he went to Gerar and dwelt there, and his strength, okay, and his strength prevailed over the army of Amalek, king of the Philistines, and also through the making of the kingdom of the Philistines stumble in saying that Rebekah, his wife, was his sister. Jacob also dealt treacherously with his brother and took from his hand his birthright and his blessing. Okay, ain't there some? His birthright and his blessing. Okay, let me get it. Right. He went then to Panorama to the house of Laban, his mother's brother, and cunningly obtained from him his daughter and his cattle and all belonging to him, and fled away and returned to the land of Canaan to his father. His sons sold their brother Joseph, who went down into Egypt and became a slave and was placed in the prison through the house for 12 years until the former Pharaoh dreamed dreams and withdrew him from the prison house and magnified him above all the princes in Egypt on account of his interpreting his dreams to him. And when God called the famine throughout the land, he sent for and brought his father and all his brothers and the whole of his father's household and supported them without a price or reward and bought the Egyptians for slaves. Now therefore, my Lord King, behold, this child has risen up, stayed in Egypt, to do according to their deeds and to the trifle which every king, prince, and judge. If it please the king, let us now spill his blood upon the ground. Lest he grow up and take away the government from thy hand, and the hope of Egypt perish, after he shall have reigned. And Balaam said to the king, let us moreover call for all the judges of Egypt and the wise men thereof, and let us know if the judgment of death is due to this boy, as thou didst say, and then we will slay him. And the Pharaoh sent and called for all the wise of Egypt, and they came before the king. Now here you go, like I was saying earlier. And the angel of the Lord came amongst them, and he was like wise men of Egypt. Right? So go back to what the question that was asked: how was these angels able to go into the women? Right here, I tell you, the angel of the Lord came amongst them, and he was like one of the wise men of Egypt. So he came amongst them, they same size, they same height as if he's one of them. Okay, and the king. So like I said before, the giantism comes because of the mixing of the angelic blood with the human blood, and they got that giantism. But they come in amongst the and coming amongst us as just like regular men. Okay, 22. And the king said unto the wise men, surely you have heard what the Hebrew boy who was in the house has done, and thus has Balaam judged in the matter. Now judge you also and see what is due to the boy for the act he has committed. And the angel, who seemed like one of the wise men of Pharaoh, excuse me, answered and said as follows: before all the wise men of Egypt and before the king and his princes, if it please the king, let the king send for men who shall bring before him an onyx stone and a coal of fire, and place them before the child. And if the child shall stretch forth his hands and take the onyx stone, then shall we know that with wisdom was the youth done all that he had done, and we must slay him. Okay? But if he stretch forth his hand upon the coal, then shall we know that it was not out that he did this thing, and he shall live. And the king seemed good, and the thing seemed good in the eyes of the king and the princes. So the king did according to the word of the angel of the Lord. And the king ordered the onyx stone and the coal to be brought and placed before Moses. And they placed the boy before them, and the lad endeavored to put his hand to the onyx stone. But the angel of the Lord took his hand, placed it upon the coals, and the coal became extinguished in his hand, and he lifted it up, put it into his mouth, and burned part of his lips and part of his tongue, and he became heavy in his mouth and in his tongue. So this is why Moses had to have Aaron to speak for him, because of this. After this had happened, he had a slurred speech because the angel caused him to put this hot coal in his mouth, and it damaged his tongue in his mouth. Right? It says that when the king and the princes saw this, they knew that had not acted with wisdom in taking off the crown from his king's head. So the king and the princes refrained from slaying the child. So Moses remained in the Pharaoh's house, growing up, and the Lord was with him. And while the boy was in the king's house, he was robed in purple, and he grew among the children of the king. And when Moses grew up in the king's house, Betha, the daughter of Pharaoh, considered him as a son, and all the household honored him, and all the men of Egypt were afraid of him. And he daily went forth and came into the land of Goshen, where his brethren, the children of Israel, were. And Moses saw them daily in shortness of breath and hard labor. And Moses asked them, saying, wherefore is this labor meted out unto you day by day? And they told him all that had befallen them, and all the injunctions which Pharaoh had put upon them before his birth. And they told him all the counsels which Balaam the son of Beor had counseled against them, and what he had also counseled against him, in order to slay him when he had taken the king's crown from off his head. And when Moses heard these things, and his anger was kindled against Balaam, and he sought to kill him, and he was in ambush for him day by day. And Balaam was afraid of Moses. And he and his two sons rose up and went forth from Egypt, and they fled and delivered their souls and betook themselves to the land of Cush, to Canis, king of Cush. And Moses was in the king's house, going out and coming in. The Lord gave him favor in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants, and in the eyes of all the people of Egypt. And they moved and they loved Moses exceedingly. And the day arrived when Moses went to Goshen to see his brethren, that he saw the children of Israel in their burdens and hard labor, and Moses was grieved on their account. And Moses returned to Egypt, came to the house of Pharaoh, came before the king, and Moses bowed down before the king. And Moses said unto the Pharaoh, I pray thee, my Lord, I have come to seek a small request from thee. turn not away my face empty. And the Pharaoh said unto him, Speak. Moses said unto Pharaoh, Let there be given unto thy servants, the children of Israel who are in Goshen, 1 day to rest therein from their labor. And the king answered Moses and said, Behold, I have lifted up my face in this thing to grant thy request. Right? And the Pharaoh ordered a proclamation to be issued throughout all of Egypt and Goshen, saying, To you, all the children of Israel, thus says the king, for 6 days you shall do your work and labor, but on the 7th day you shall rest and shall not perform. Thus shall ye do all the days as the king and Moses, the son of Bethel, have commanded. And Moses rejoiced at this thing which the king had granted to him, and all the children of Israel did as Moses ordered them. For the thing was from the Lord to the children of Israel, for the Lord had begun to remember the children of Israel to save them for the sake of their fathers. And the Lord was with Moses, and his fame went throughout Egypt. Moses became great in the eyes of all the Egyptians and in the eyes of all the children of Israel, seeking good for his people Israel, and words of peace regarding them to the king. Okay, any comments on that? Anybody got any comments on Joshua chapter 70? Okay, I can see from reading this right here, I can see Abraham Torah in this, the way it's playing out. Can anybody else see that?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Are you saying in the sense of how the angel of the Lord is guarding Moses?
What not that part of it, decide on what the people are seeing. Like it says right here, Moses went to the Pharaoh and Moses received favor from the Pharaoh, and then he gave them a day of rest, and then they see all the things that Moses was able to do that nobody else was able to do. And we see that now with Torah. So like I said, we know that Yahweh was with Moses, but could this be orchestrated what we look at now? But it looks the same way. You see that?
It does. Yes, sir.
Shalom. I see the similarities as well, and especially in the part that the people begin to love him,
Right.
and then all of a sudden the people of the ruling class, see him as a threat and want to take him out because of that love.
Exactly. So could that be orchestrated, or is it playing out the same way with him as it played out with Moses? We gotta keep watching, keep our eyes open. Okay. So let me see if I want to read 71. Yeah, I'll read 71, then we'll close out. Okay. 71 says, and when Moses was 18 years old, he desired to see his father and his mother, and he went to them to Goshen. And when Moses had come near Goshen, he came to the place where the children of Israel were engaged in work. And he observed their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian smiting one of his Hebrew brethren. And when the man who was beaten saw Moses, he ran to him for help, for the man was greatly respected. For Moses was greatly respected in the house of Pharaoh. And he said to him, My Lord, attend to me. The Egyptian came to my house in the night, bound me, came to my wife in my presence, and now he seeks to take my life away. So ain't this the reason that Abraham told Sarah to tell him that he was a brother?
Yes.
And
yes, sir.
And the same thing with Isaac, right? It was the same thing with Isaac, right?
Yes.
So remember what I told you. The Egyptians is a race of giants. right? Mezzarine with the I-M on the end of it. Okay, so we know that Ham is the 6th-day man. So we know that these, and when you understand all this right here, the angels came down, the 200 angels came down in that area, Canaan. That's why so many giants there. Hermon is right there where they made the packet. So just like the giants in Deuteronomy chapter 2, the different races of giants, Mezzarine, that is one of Ham's sons, is a giant. And you know how you get a giant? So when we saw before the flood, that's what they do. Go to a man's house, beat him down because they're so bigger and stronger than them, and sleep with his children, wife and his children in front of him. That's what Japhet did to Noah when the boat was seeded. When you understand what's going on, Noah started drinking, and then he went in and harmed Noah's wife, and she had a son behind him. Then he hauled ass, he took Adam and Eve garments and hauled ass with them. But they want you to think it's Ham that done that. And I even believe that Mezzarine is in Japhet lineage. Okay, but they got it over in Ham lineage. But anyway, so we see right here, let me read it again. So it says, Moses rejoiced at this thing which the king had granted him. Well, I'm gonna go back down. So it says, and when Moses heard this wickedness, okay, 2. And when the man who was beaten saw Moses, he ran to him for help. And the man Moses was greatly respected in the house of Pharaoh. And he said to him, my Lord, attend to me. This Egyptian is a giant, came to my house in the night. Go to Sodom and Gomorrah. When the angels they came to the door, they came at night. Right? Then same thing with the Levite. Okay, he says, and when the man who was beaten saw Moses, he ran to him for help. And the man Moses was greatly respected in the house of Pharaoh. And he said to him, my Lord, attend to me. This Egyptian came to my house in the night, bound me. See that? Because he way stronger and bigger than him, and came to my wife in my presence. These are all the characteristics. And now he seeks to take my life away. And when Moses heard this wicked thing, his anger was kindled against the Egyptian, and he turned this way and the other. And when he saw that there was no man there, he smote the Egyptian and hid him in the sand and delivered the Hebrew from the hands of him that smote him. Okay, and then the Hebrew went to his house, and Moses returned to his house and went forth and came back to the king's house. And when the man had returned home, he thought of repudiating his wife, for it was not right in the house of Jacob for a man to come to his wife after she had been defiled. So now, like I said before, you're getting all these answers right here. So go to the garden. Everybody want to know what the deal with Adam and Eve. So the serpent came, slept with Eve. Well, he just told you. And when the man had returned home of repudiating his wife, but this the law, for it was not right. It was not right in the house of Jacob for a man to come in to his wife after she'd been defiled. So that's what Adam's seeing there. He saw what the serpent had done, and Eve anyway. Let that for me. Anyway, so the woman went and told her brothers, and the woman's brothers saw him, and he fled to his house and escaped. And on the second day, Moses went forth to his brethren and saw, and behold, 2 men were quarreling. And he said to the wicked one, why doest thou smite thy neighbor? And he answered him and said to him, who has set thee for a prince and judge over us. Didst thou think to slay me as thou didst slay the Egyptian? And Moses was afraid, and he said, surely the thing is known. And the Pharaoh heard and Pharaoh heard of this affair, and he ordered Moses to be slain. So God sent his angel, and he appeared to the Pharaoh in the likeness of the captain of the guard. See that? In the likeness of the captain of the guard. So he's stature of the same height as the captain of the guard. And the angel of the Lord took the sword from the hand of the captain of the guard, took his head off with it, for the likeness of the captain of the guard was turned to the likeness of Moses. Right? I'll come back to that in a minute. So, and the angel of the Lord took hold of the right hand of Moses, brought him forth from Egypt, and placed him from without the borders of Egypt, a distance of 40 days' journey. So same thing the angel doing right here. Didn't he do that with Lot and Lot's wife? And then didn't he do it with Ezekiel? Took him by the naps of the hair and took him to Jerusalem. Told him to dig down in the wall. So 12. Aaron and his brother alone remained in the land of Egypt. And so Aaron, his brother, alone remained in the land of Egypt. And he prophesied to the children of Israel, saying, thus said the Lord God of your ancestors, throw away each man the abomination of his eyes, and do not defile it with the idols of Egypt. And the children of Israel rebelled and would not hearken to Aaron at this time. And the Lord thought to destroy them, where it not that the Lord remembered the covenant which he had made with Abraham. In those days, the hand of the Pharaoh continued to be severe against the children of Israel, and he crushed and oppressed them until the time when God sent forth his word to notice of them. Okay? Any comments on that? That's 71. Questions, comments?
Shalom. Brother Leonard, in verse 10, that's the Lord of hosts, like shape shifting again, right?
What verse?
So, verse 10 and 71.
Yeah,
when he said,
right. The angel of the Lord took the sword from the hand of his captain of the guard and took his head off, and the likeness of the captain of the guard was turned into the likeness of Moses. So he killed the Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, and he transformed to look just like the captain of the guard. Right?
Right.
Okay, so my point is this. Go back to Genesis. He says that Cain killed Abel, right?
Yes, sir.
Then what the Most High do? He had Seth in Adam's likeness and in Adam's image. And we see it all the time, but we ain't understand. You'll have, and most of the time it's that oldest boy or the firstborn. You say you look at them, and, I know in our case, like here in Louisiana area, you don't really, me being the youngest son in my family, you don't really know that the people down the street had an older son or whatever. You don't know him. You just know the ones you know when you was growing up. See this boy pop up, and you think it's the daddy, but he look just like the daddy. He's in the likeness of the daddy. So that's a gift. That's a blessing. When the Most High do that, and we see it, he tells you that. Yeah, he had a bunch of sons, but he said he had one in his likeness and in his image. It's right there in our face, but we ain't really dealing with it. And he said the same thing about David. The covenant he got with David, he gonna always, there's gonna be some wicked sons be born, but then he gonna raise one up in David likeness. Down to the T, inside and out. And we see it all the time, like I said, but we ain't, we've been brainwashed, so we don't connect those dots. Okay. Any questions, comments? Everybody good? And then also we can look at 13. This last 3 verses says, last 4 verses says, "Thus says the Lord God of your ancestors, throw away each man the abomination of his eyes, and do not defile yourselves with the idols of Egypt." Right. So it's after Moses came. Moses then fled. So Aaron telling after Moses left, throw away your idols, right? Throw away your idols in return. Throw away the idols of Egypt. They didn't. 14. And the children of Israel rebelled and would not hearken to Aaron at that time. So now we see why the burden was increased. It ain't just happened. It ain't no accident that the burden increased. Right here, he says, Aaron and his brother alone in the land of Egypt, and he prophesied to the children of Israel, saying, "Thus says the Lord God of your ancestors, throw away each man the abomination of his eyes, and do not defile yourselves with the idols of Egypt." And the children of Israel rebelled. Okay? So what we looking at in the King James is right here. What they rebelled. The Lord, he told them what to do. It's happening today. He bringing the truth to them, but they rebelling against it. So he says, and the children of Israel rebelled and would not hearken to Aaron. Would not hearken to Aaron. Moses gone at that time. And the Lord thought to destroy them. See that? They don't tell us this in King James. And the Lord thought to destroy them. Worried not that the Lord had remembered the covenant which he had made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In those days, the hand of Pharaoh continued. See, this is why it continued, because they rebelled. In those days, the hand of the Pharaoh continued to be severe against the children of Israel, and he crushed and oppressed them until time when God sent forth his word, took notice of them. Okay? And the same thing is transpiring today. We in captivity, but we in rebellion. Okay? Everybody good?
Yes.
Okay, anybody got a scripture they want to read? No scripture? Okay, so with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and another shalom. I see everybody tomorrow. We got our Sunday Advanced Bible Study. It's at 5 p.m. Central Time. So I see everybody again. Shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom, everybody.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it, because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament and Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up, and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.